What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as Wrestlelamia analyzes the 7th September edition of the Red Brand and looks at the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know, including another top UFC star challenges Brock Lesnar in WWE, Ivar was legitimately injured on last night's Raw, an update on Matt Hardy, a Divas champion tests positive for the virus, why Marty Jannetty needs to stay off social media, AJ says now is the time to retire, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. As always, we won't waste your time recapping the matches, but we will take a look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly from last night's show. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, Drew's destruction. The WWE did a fantastic job with Drew McIntyre's quest for revenge on Randy Orton, beginning with McIntyre's surprise attack out of an ambulance and leading to the final beatdown on Orton that resulted in the Viper taking a ride in the ambulance to the nearest undisclosed medical facility. Fans don't like to see a babyface get beat up week after week, so McIntyre's repeated attacks on Randy Orton not only help him look like an absolute badass, but it furthered the program between the Legend Killer and the WWE Champion. Number 2, Cedric Alexander joins the Hurt Business. One of the few highlights of Raw was watching Cedric Alexander join the Hurt Business, a move that was hinted at last week and solidified this week. We've repeatedly praised the Hurt Business as one of the best things happening on Raw, and Alexander's addition to the group not only made sense, but will hopefully give him a push he needs to step out of the mid-card. Number 3, Retribution makes a statement. Retribution struck again on Raw, but this time it was to make an announcement teasing that they are made up of wrestlers cast aside by the WWE. Does this mean fans should expect to see wrestlers from the WWE's past or mid-card wrestlers tired of their spot in the company? The speech was a good means of building interest in the group's identities. Although we know better than to get our hopes up for the Retribution storyline, this was entertaining and an intriguing way to further it without another running angle. Number 4, it's a family affair. Seth Rollins and Murphy made life miserable for Rey and Rey Mysterio over the last few months, ranging from Rollins nearly taking Rey's eye out to the brutal kendo stick shots on Dominic. Thus, the Mysterio family have every reason to want to get its hands on Murphy and Seth Rollins, and while the Monday Night Messiah escaped the wrath of Rey and his kin, Murphy wasn't so fortunate, getting multiple kendo stick shots from the Mysterios. Obviously, the real payoff is seeing Seth get his comeuppance, but last night's segment with Murphy was a great tease, even though any longtime fan knows there's more suffering to come for Rey and his family. But that was the good. What about the bad? Is number 1, meaningless matches. If they wanted to fill 3 hours of Raw with meaningless matches, they did a great job, airing the tag match between the teams of Asuka Mickie James and Natalya Lana, as well as the handicap matches featuring the Raw Women's Tag Team Champions against the Riot Squad. If you were able to figure out what these matches did to further storylines, please let us know in the comments down below. Number 2, same old stuff. Not only did WWE air some meaningless matches, but they also recycled the dreaded Street Profits vs Andrade Garza series. While it's clear the WWE wants to break up Andrade and Garza, they could have thrown them into a match with any team. As what are Humberto Carrillo and Mustafa doing? Instead, they made the Raw Tag Team Champions look like second bananas rather than the focus of Raw's tag division. And what's going on with Keith Lee and Randy Orton? If they want to make a series between these two in the future, they're doing a good job burning off any interest thanks to repeated matches between the two. This is the 4th match between Orton and Lee, and it's another one that should have never happened. Number 3, Raw Underground. Now, this is the last time we're going to mention Raw Underground and how bad it is, simply because it's like beating a dead horse. After weeks of airing, the segments still have no direction, and no one knows if there's any purpose to the Underground Fight Club other than getting some television time. Number 4, no build-up for Clash of Champions other than McIntyre. Last night's Raw featured zero build-up for Clash of Champions other than Drew destroying Randy, and while that was entertaining, the rest of the show lacked any push for the show where every WWE Championship is defended. Oh wait, is that Night of Champions? Well, whatever, it's got championship in the name. But whatever the case, who's going to challenge the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Raw Women's Champion, or the United States Champion? We've only got 3 shows to build up all those matches. Now, there was no downright ugly, but it seemed mostly meaningless with far too much filler and not enough fresh storylines. Raw continues to be a mess every week, while SmackDown is actually usually quite good. Is Bruce Pritchard worn out after writing the Blue Brand? If so, it's time to bring someone in to run Raw. There is a guy, but we're wondering if Vince actually has some trust in him. But that was the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Let us know what you thought of Raw in the comments down below. Now, let's move on to the news. Now, our first bit of news is that Eve Torres has the coronavirus. It's bad news for a former WWE Divas champion who has tested positive for the coronavirus. The three-time champion Eve Torres posted the following on Instagram. I debated sharing this as it still feels raw and personal right now, but I've always believed in sharing both the good and the tough with our community. My husband Renee tested positive for COVID last Wednesday in the beginning of our vacation in Utah with my family. We all returned home immediately. I have now tested positive and my 2-year-old Renson has had a fever, who we also assume to be positive. We'd like to wish a fast and full recovery for Eve and her family, as well as the other individuals dealing with the virus. Next up, AJ Styles is ready to retire. Now, it might not be immediate, but Styles did let his fans know via his Twitch stream that right now seems to be the right time. I want to retire. I really do. I'm going to give you a breakdown of what's going on this Friday. I'm going to leave, and listen, it could be a lot worse, but with everything going on with the COVID and whatnot, I've gotten to see my kids' practices. That's really cool for me. My son's games for varsity football are on Friday nights. I perform on Friday nights. This Friday isn't one of those. For whatever reason, they moved it to Saturday. He's going to have a Saturday football game, and I'm going to get to see it. Styles is still under contract for a few more years, but if he chose to walk away from wrestling, there's nothing the WWE could do other than to prevent him from working for other promotions. Who knows, Styles may even give it all up in the ring just to become a producer backstage. Next up, Marty Jannetty needs to get off social media. Former WWE superstar Marty Jannetty is at it again, making batshit crazy statements on Facebook and embarrassing himself once again. This time, the former rocker decided to share his opinion on racial issues in America. Now, we won't waste your time with what he said, and we'll put the screenshot in the video so you can pause and read it yourself. But whatever the case, Marty needs his social media taken away from him. It's only for his own good. Next up, UFC's Daniel Cormier wants Brock Lesnar in WWE. Recently retired UFC light heavyweight and heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier was supposed to battle Brock Lesnar in the octagon, but as sometimes happens, things don't work out. During a chat with ESPN's Ariel Helwani, he called Lesnar out saying, "I'm done. I want to wrestle with Brock in the WWE. That's where I want to fight Brock. I want to fight him on his terms. You know, two old guys in the UFC octagon going at it, 43, 41-year-old guys seem fun. But me and Brock at WrestleMania, that would be a good time." This match at WrestleMania 37 could be huge, and with any luck it'll be better than the awful Cain Velasquez vs Brock Lesnar match at last year's Crown Jewel show. While it's believed that Lesnar is no longer under WWE contract, it's also believed that the WWE is waiting for the right opportunity to have him wrestle, and about with the former UFC heavyweight champion certainly sounds like the right opportunity. Next up, Ivar was legitimately injured last night. Viking Raider Ivar took a bad fall during the 8-man tag match on Raw, leading to the match ending early. Unfortunately, Ricochet didn't get the memo and the referee counted him out down for a 3 count even though he kicked out. This happened when the big man went for a dive to the outside, and it looked like a pretty bad landing. WWE.com issued the following statement. During the 8-man tag match on Monday Night Raw, Ivar suffered a cervical injury on a Viking dive to the floor. As a precaution, Ivar was transported to a local hospital and is expected to make a full recovery. He is definitely hoping for a speedy recovery for the Viking Raider. In addition to Ivar, WWE superstar Rey Mysterio is also dealing with an injury. Rey tore a tricep at Payback, but according to a report by Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer Radio, he should be back in 6 weeks, sometime after Clash of Champions. We've also got another update, and it's on Matt Hardy. Now, as you know, he hit his head on the concrete at All Out, leading to a battery of tests and Matt being hospitalized. Matt left the hospital and made the following statement on Cameo, something WWE wrestlers can no longer do.
I hope you're doing okay. I hope you're doing well. I've just gotten home. I was in the hospital for a couple days. I took a very bad bump and smashed myself on the concrete and had to go for a whole bunch of tests and evaluations, and they just wouldn't let me go. So I was just stuck in the hospital, and I know you've been there recently and it sucks. So I'm so happy to be out and be back home.
Now, Matt will be showing up on this week's edition of Dynamite to speak on the accident. And finally, speculation on Retribution's identities. As the Retribution storyline continues to progress, fans and wrestling pundits are beginning to speculate further as to who could be in the group. One Reddit user named EraLuna16 claims to have used audio editing software to break through the voice distorts used by Retribution, commenting that the voices sound like Mercedes Martinez and Dominik Dijakovic. During a recent edition of the Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer also speculated that Mojo Rawley is one of the Retribution members. Keep in mind that Vince McMahon is booking the Retribution angle on the fly, and that even if the various speculation is true, McMahon could change things in the next week. But there you have it guys, the good, the bad and the downright ugly from the 7th September episode of Raw, as well as the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.